Dr. Robert Sicora, you are recognized as an organization development and human resource thought leader and facilitator. You have helped thousands of leaders discover the leader within with your 8 factor of engagement methodology. And recently, you just wrote a book called Grab the Helm, Navigating with Purpose, Charting a Course Through Life Journey, where you teach people how to take command of their life. Dr. Sicora, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
So your book is being released in 2 days now, and it's an amazing book. It's full of insights, but I wonder if we could start with a little bit of background information. I know that you grew up in a big family, so a little bit of growing up with a big family, and then when you're going through high school, what was in your mind as what to do in the future?
When I was growing up in high school, I actually was one of those kids that always had a dream of what I wanted to do. I'm not sure why, and it's probably some really good reflection for me, but I think it goes back to what you said, being part of a big family. I came 7 years after number 6, and I was number 7, and then there was number 8, my little brother Wayne. And so I had 6 much older brothers and sisters, and they were always out doing. They were always out, whatever it was, their jobs, their lives, they were all teenagers, really. And so as a small child, I always saw this. And my dad also ran his own company. He had a small printing organization. And I was always looking at that. So it was like, okay, where do I fit in? What do I do? And so how do I have a voice? And how do I have meaning and purpose in my life? And so as a young kid, I don't know if I've ever shared this, but as a young kid, I was always impressed by the stuntmen in the different movies and the TV shows. And so I wanted to be a Hollywood stuntman when I was a little kid. And that wasn't probably the healthiest choice of things, but I really did find an affinity towards flying. I was able to fly at a fairly young age in a small plane. And it really it took off literally for me, and it ignited something within me. So I started doing quite a bit of flying. I flew up in Canada. I flew over here in Hawaii, and I was actually looking to go as a naval pilot. I was looking potentially to get in the academy or doing something that way. And a series of events occurred one particular summer, and I was already doing a lot of work around motivation and working with kids and teenagers when I was one. As a 17-year-old, I was working as a recreational coordinator, and by 19, I was a recreational therapist. And so I was already doing this work while I was also looking at the possibility of doing the flying. And tragically enough, a couple planes crashed up in Canada of that I knew of the people that were there. The one gentleman survived, which was great. And so, but it was a bit of an omen for me, because I was, at the time, I was volunteering at a youth ranch for kids. And that's when it just hit me that this was my kind of calling at the time, as we say, because, you don't have typically a purpose that lasts your entire life. You kind of evolve through different phases of purpose as you go through. And for me, that was the big one. It was working with kids, adolescents, and really helping them find within themselves what was meaningful, that gave them a sense of purpose to be able to go beyond whatever it is that had them, that they're struggling through. If it was something related to family, the culture, whatever they got in trouble with, if it was drugs or whatever else. But it was an opportunity for them to break free from that. And that was the work that I did. And I just happened to do it through what we call recreational therapy, but I was part of a larger system. So yeah, I think being part of a big family, being younger in the big family, I've always been the coordinator. I'm the one that gets the family reunions together, all the family events. I'm always looking to bring people together. And that was definitely a part of that.
Well, most adults, they are fearful of taking a leadership role. Even as simple as organizing a family meeting, they feel certain intimidation. What is this person going to think? Or am I not presuming too much of myself? While you were already taking leadership roles when you were a teenager, what what allowed you to take that step forward and say, okay, I'm going to serve this community, I'm going to be a leader? I'm sure you didn't think of it in that way of just being a leader. I'm sure you thought of it as a service to others and you taking initiative. But what do you think it was that in your mind that allowed you to take that step forward?
It's a great question. When you were asking that question, there was an example in my life that I haven't thought about for years, and that surfaced. And one of the things that I did is I volunteered for one of the local churches, actually, and they had never had a youth group. They never had a one that did like activities and that did community service. It was just a small country church, and that was one of the first times that I really saw myself stepping up in the community and saying, here's what we need and why. And so, putting together a good business case for, why we needed to have community outreach. And I remember doing all night lock-ins with, hundreds of kids and, just putting it together and, having tremendous success and having volunteers show up and be a part of it. And I was just a teenager myself, again, as I mentioned. And so, what did that, what triggered that? Again, I was pretty much given open permission as a kid to be able to pursue things that were meaningful. It's one of the things I talked to my dad about. One of the things with his personality style, he wasn't even though he ran a business, he's one of those humble leaders. He was one of those that, Jim Collins, would say was a level 5 leader. He was all about the people, the relationships, the community, very much, relationship based, not a driver, not a, somebody who is going after the financials and pushing that. It was more about what can we do to succeed. And so he wasn't somebody who was always driving me to, hey, you need to accomplish, you need to grow. He wasn't that kind of father at all, but he was very much a nurturing, type of father and just supportive. If you got an idea and you want to go with it, it's the support and asking really good questions around, okay, how are you going to accomplish that? And here are some things to consider, that type of thing. So I think having that nurturing relationship as a parent definitely helped. But, beyond that, it was just my observation of things. There's always a fear factor for folks or something that kind of holds us back. And early on, I think I felt the exhilaration of going through the center of my fear. You recognize it, you saw it. It's like, okay, what can I do to get through it? Because on the other side of it was always something really cool. Wow. And so it was more, and I think, I go back, wanting to be a stuntman. I mean, wanting to fly. I mean, these are fairly adventurous things. And so stepping through that door and having that willingness to do that, it isn't until you get older at some point you start to say, well, okay, wait, maybe I shouldn't. And you start to second guess things. And I had a mentor who just recently passed away, Dr. Warren Hoffman, who was amazing because when we would have our lunches and our breakfast meetings together, anytime he felt me hesitating a little bit, he'd ask me, what is that? What's behind that? And as soon as I do that, it's like, he's trying to get at a core, and we would work through it. It's like, okay, this is why, at the time there was one, it was, why aren't you writing a book on your dissertation? And so what's holding you back? And so being able to get really clear about what it is and then figuring out, okay, what are the 2 or 3 steps you need to do to get through that really helps to accelerate because you get energy from it. You learn so much. There's such a transformational learning experience when you work through the center of a fear.
Okay, so you have the support of your family, the support of your community. You learn how to serve other people. Can you take us a little bit through your career before you got to be a consultant as you are now? So, from high school to where you are right now.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting you mentioned the servitude piece. I became a waiter at a very young age. I think I was a 15-year-old. And I thought waiting tables was awesome because you worked as part of a team. You had the back of the house. I love restaurant. I love food. And being able to go out and serve, a family and entertain the kids and be part of that whole experience for me. I always say, everybody should work in a restaurant. I think it's just, you learn, good customer service. You learn financials. You learn how to be part of a team. and you learn how to serve. And so that was part of who I was. I also did quite a bit of, I want to pause real quick. The garbage trucks are coming through. Can you hear that in the background?
Yeah, slightly, but yeah, we can pause.
Okay, you're able to edit this, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so that's something I didn't check with. So I'll get rolling. So working in the restaurant industry definitely helped to create, the teammanship, the servitude mentality, and just working in service of others. When I started to go to school, I was going to school more as a generalist. I was taking general classes at a community college. I'm a first generation college student. With the 8 kids in our family, there was others that went to school, but nobody ever finished. At least initially, I was actually the first one of the 8 kids to graduate from college, and I went to junior college just wanting to learn, just wanting to understand the different types of classes. I was very impressed by sociology of all things. I never even really understood. I knew psychology, but the whole study of sociology, philosophy was interesting to me. Economics was great. These are all things that you go in and you learn. So, I was going down the recreational path. I was going down that path of wanting to fly and to fly airplanes. The airplane door closed, and that became very clear. We talk about that a bit in the books about doors opening and closing, the doors of opportunity, right? And so the door with the flying closed. It was pretty clear. I didn't get the naval slot, at the academy. I was, doing it on your own was pretty financially taxing. And this space, this passion within me around working with kids and doing the development side really opened up. And so that's the path that I went down. So that brought me through my undergraduate years, which actually were quite a few years. I happened to be a young father. I was a single father of a wonderful young boy, and so it was kind of cool because as I was working with youth, I was also raising a small child, and it was just an amazing experience for me because I was able to apply everything that I was learning with him. And as a result, he turned into, an incredible young man, an honors student, a very proficient international tennis player as a teenager, went on to play, collegiate tennis and for Team USA at the World University Games. And it was just I was blessed, in having a son that way. So, the piece of having to support somebody, and it wasn't just me, it was somebody else you had to take care of as well, was a big part, I think, as well. I always knew I wanted to go on to my master's program. So my undergraduate were more of the generalist. I got a degree in communications. I got a degree in sociology, but I also did half my MBA. There was always this piece of business that intrigued me because of my dad's business. So seeing him, manage this 55-person print organization. He did specialty advertising, printing, and also did reproduction of wildlife art. He was very accomplished in their ability to do that. And so I did half my MBA, but when I went to apply for graduate school at the University of Minnesota, I graduated undergraduate at St. Cloud State, where I'm on the alumni board now. But when I went to the University of Minnesota, I applied for the MBA program and to finish my MBA. And they looked at my resume and they said, why are you doing the MBA? You should be doing the Master's in Human Resources. And I was like, and I thought personnel, I knew the personnel department at where I worked, and I was like, why would I want to do that? And when I got to study the field a little further, I understood all the different facets of it. And so I went ahead and applied, and little did I know the University of Minnesota had the #1 human resources program, arguably with Cornell and in Illinois and some of the other fine institutions. So I went there. I do need to pause. I did have a professor at St. Cloud State by the name of Basi Ayo, who, from African descent, an amazing orator. He was out of the communications department. He taught leadership. He taught communication in the business. And I just learned so much from him. There were so many mentors that I had at St. Cloud State, Rich Sebastian and Marge Twang Dungan and Abbas Mede and just amazing people in the different areas that taught me so much. But it was Basi that suggested that I get into student leadership. So I was part of, I was the vice president of the sociology club. And then when I went to the University of Minnesota, I just went to one of the student meetings, student organization meetings. The next thing you knew, they had voted me in as president. So I became president of the student body down there. And it was just an incredible experience in going through the master's program. And so I was fortunate. I received one of the top internships for Pfizer Pharmaceutical, which obviously is known now for the vaccination drugs that we're looking at for COVID. Had an amazing experience with them out in New York. I ended up landing my full-time job with Pillsbury, which is the Doughboy, which is part of General Mills right now, another great Minneapolis-based company, Minnesota-based company. And so the human resources space just opened up and unfolded to me, and worked with great companies like Carlson Companies, Eaton Corporation, and then finished my career in 2009 with Cargill, which was obviously is one of the top, privately held companies in the world. And but in the space of human resources, the area of organization development, leadership development, really came to the forefront for me. I got really involved with things like employee engagement, and really finding out what really drives people. Again, it was always at the core. It was one of the questions that I asked myself back when I was 17 was, what motivates some of us kids to really want to do well in school, and for some of us not to, and for some of us just to kind of float along? It was a question for me that was always intriguing, and trying to get to the core of that was just kind of a life science of mine. And so it took place working with the youth. It took place with working with employees within business. And now I've been privileged in the last 11 to 12 years working as an independent, bringing it to other organizations and being able to work with multiple organizations across the world.
So, so you said 2009 you became an independent. Did I understood that correctly?
Yeah. So I went to work for Cargill. I managed a large learning and development budget for one of their business units. And when the Great Recession came in, I had to decrease my budget by 40% and then by another 20%. And when I decreased it by the 20%, I actually put my job as a line item. And they were like, "What are you doing? We need you to run the function." I said, "Well," I said, "at some point you're going to make a decision potentially to ask people to take, severance packages potentially. And if that happens, I knew I was a redundant head, meaning I knew there was other people that could fill the role." And they said, "Well, that's not what they wanted to do." But they came back later and they said, "Well, are you still interested in that?" I said, "Yeah." So I actually took a package, a severance package, left, and I invested everything into building a business. And because of my broad network of people that I knew over the 20-year history, I had multiple human resources executives, one with Applebee's, one with Best Buy, and many others that wanted me to go in and do enterprise-wide projects for their organizations. So that's what brought me down that path. And then it's interesting, I happened to be at an organization development network event at the University of St. Thomas in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And I walked out of the session and I looked up at the ceiling, and the ceiling was done, was that beautiful art where they do the art in the soft concrete and then it hardens, and it's kind of the Crisco or whatever they call it. And I realized that I had been there as a 19-year-old, maybe a 21-year-old, I can't remember, supervisor, because I was a supervisor of recreational therapy, and they sent me down there to get certified in supervisorial training or whatever, how to be a supervisor. And I was in that same building, and I was there when the guy was actually painting the ceiling. And it was this amazing, art. It was, Michelangelo art that was reproduced there. And I remember looking up, I said, this would be a really great place to get a doctorate. As I remember saying that to myself. So here I walk out how many years later, and I looked up at the same ceiling. I said, I remembered exactly what I had said, those 20 years earlier. And I immediately went upstairs. The organization development department out of the School of Education was literally, 4 floors above me. And I went in there and I asked about their program, and they said they're doing interviews right now. And I said, "Whoa, I'm not sure if I want to go into a program right now." They said, "Well, we only take a cohort every 2 years. So you're gonna have to wait 2.5 years if you want to go through." So I went ahead and signed up for the interviews. I got through, and next thing you knew, I was working on my doctorate in organization development there. So it was pretty wild.
Wow, that's amazing. Okay, so I want to get to the subject matter of your book where you talk about this 8 factor of engagement methodology. Can you first of all tell us about what is it that inspired you to write this book? And then, of course, if you could go over these 8 factors that you're talking about.
Well, yeah, to bring clarity to that, the book itself, Grab the Helm, is around grabbing the helm of life. And so I've been working from an organizational version of that helm for, for years. We talk about having a mission of the organization. We talk about having good leadership. We talk about having a culture of trust. We talk about teams being highly effective, working together, which helps to drive individual engagement, which when we're highly engaged as individuals, we do amazing work on the work processes that we're responsible for, which then delights the customer, which then provides an overall result or an impact, okay? So that's the organizational helm. 3 years ago, because every winter I take a kind of a retreat, and 3 years ago I took a retreat to Peru. And I was hiking the Coca Canyon and Machu Picchu and Huayno Picchu and all sorts of different places, Cusco and Lima. But I was in the Coca Canyon, and it resonated with me that we needed an individual helm to really help the individual align to the organizational helm. So the individual helm are the 8 spokes of the book, Grab the Helm. And that is, what is your purpose? And if you're not clear with your purpose, that's fine, because each and every one of us, evolve through what our purpose is, and it's a daily journey. So what is that daily journey about? Well, the daily journey is really understanding who we are as individuals, who we are as leaders within society and within our place that is given to us. It's us having really a clear understanding of what our value structure is, what our core foundational attributes in our decision making. Who is our crew? Who are our inner circle? Who are the people that we entrust to share our thoughts and our ideas, and who we're vulnerable with? Who challenges us with other thinking? Then what our passions are. What are the things that we love to do? And those are things that if you do kind of an inventory over time, there's things that you just know that you absolutely love doing. Your time has no bound when that happens. So what are our passions? And then from there, it's what are the gifts and the talents that we have and that we've developed. We've been given things that we are then stewards of. And so how do we use our gifts and talents to serve others? And so that's that opportunity of servitude then that we have on a daily basis. And that's why mindfulness is so important, because if we're looking at our cell phones or doing other things, and thinking about other things, it distracts us from the here and now. And there's so many opportunities in the here and now that we have to serve others. And how do we take advantage of that? And ultimately, what is the impact that has on others' lives and society that we're part of? So the Grab the Helm book, as people work through the journey of each of those spokes, it helps to refine and redefine what their purpose is. Because when you are stepping through those doors of opportunity, even though there's that part of you that wants to hesitate or has fear, but if you figure out a way to get through it, on the other side, you learn so much more about yourself, and you realize, wow, I may actually have a passion for this. I may have a purpose in this, and it may be something that really defines who I am and the impact that I'm going to have on the world. So if you're constantly working through the helm, it really helps. And there's a daily process too around looking at through the lens of gratitude, the gifts that we have, the opportunity that we have to give others, and the opportunity we have to grow every day. So I call that the 4G model. Well, as you work around the organizational helm and even the individual helm, when you get to that place of engagement or the passion, what gives you passion, back in 2016, we did deep work and deep research around the area of engagement. And what we found is that the work that had been done by other studies of engagement were lacking in certain areas if you looked at it from a balanced, holistic model. And we were able to do that because of the 4 colors and the 8 styles of personality that we use when we're doing self-awareness work. And we realized that if we mapped the engagement model around those 8 styles, that we created a holistic, balanced model, which doesn't exist, had never existed before on the planet. So we mapped those 8 styles to the 8 factors of engagement. And so we found that purpose is the #1 factor. So it's our purpose for ourselves, but our shared purpose with others is the number one factor that drives engagement more than anything else. So long as the other factor on the other side of the model is present, and that's trust. So when you have trust and purpose together, you've got a really strong foundation for a model. So the other factors include things like recognition, right, and accountability, and agility, okay, and developing, resources and care for others. And so when you work through all 8 of the factors, you get a holistic approach to what drives engagement for me, both in my personal life and then also in professional life. So we know scientifically it's the most balanced, actionable engagement model that exists.
And do you have a formula or a way to discover who we are? What is our purpose? Because we have so much noise all the time. We have our family, our society, we have the media, we have trillions of dollars in advertising telling us what house should we buy, what kind of car we should have, what kind of wife or husband we should get. We are even told whether we should be gay or heterosexual nowadays. And so how do we discover who are we really and what is our true purpose? It's really difficult to find that inside of ourselves without all this external noise.
Yeah, I think you're right, Alan, that, the noise definitely plays a huge role on the influencing of who we are. What that does is it bounces up against our values structure again. When you look at the individual Helm, that values piece is a big piece. Now, it's okay for us to be able to listen to and to interact with others that we consider to be, somebody that we trust, that is kind of in that inner circle, to really be able to allow ourselves to question even our own thinking. I mean, we were all raised a certain way, right? Based upon the community that we were born in, the family we were born in, the culture that we were born in, the ethnicity, it's all part of makes up who we are. But then that becomes that discovery phase, and that own individual discovery that we go through on a daily basis. That's why as teenagers, for some of us, there's that rebellious side, because we kind of rebel from those earlier years that was more imposed as black and white thinking. It's like, well, wait a second, I'm not quite sure. I have that ability to question things. And that's important, because as we question things, we refine our understanding about things. But if we're getting bombarded with all the media, all of a sudden now that's having this influence that really isn't allowing us to truly understand who we are. And so I think you've hit it on the head right there. I mean, if we allow ourselves to let go of all these other influences and really allow ourselves to kind of have that meditative state and really be present with who we are and listen to the inner voice that's occurring. It's the inner voice that's, it's a quiet voice, but it speaks louder than any other voice. But we've got to give that inner voice the opportunity to be heard. And so what do we do to create those opportunities? How do we create quietness in our lives? For myself, I take off on a 1 or 2 week retreat every winter, just to be able to provide that. I hike and I do different things that, there's no, music in my ears or anything. I just listen to nature at that point. But the two models, using those two models, the 4G model and the grab the helm, leading from the helm model, is really what helps us look inside and to feel that. So if I'm looking at how did I grow today? How did I give today? What are the gifts that I have and did I use them in service? And what can I be grateful for today? If you just do that in the morning and in the evening, there's enough time and space that allows us to be reflective, that all of a sudden a sense of purpose can start to come. It's like, oh, okay, this is an opportunity I had to give today. Here's an opportunity I had to grow today. Here's a gift that I had that I got to use. I'm grateful for all that. And when you come from a spirit of gratitude, certain things surface for us that becomes more clear. It's like, wow, there's something in there. I've seen that happen, a pattern of that happen, quite a few days in the last month. Maybe there's something there that I need to look at. Maybe there's an avenue of my life that I had never gone down before that I need to look at.
And is there a way for you to discern what kind of outside information to take in? And I'll give you an example. I grew up in a society where being homophobic was acceptable. If you wanted to offend someone, you would just point a finger and say you are gay. Okay, so that's the society. Now, of course, I have left my home country. Now I live in a Canada, a place where it's open, uh, where that is accepted and is part of our society. And uh, it took some time for me and my mind to see this different way of acting, of thinking. So I took this new information and I adopted it into myself. So in a society, how do we discern what is the right information and what is the one that we just should, toss away?
It's a great question. It's part of, it's part of our growth trajectory, right? You've heard the term, if you're not growing, you're dying. And what does growth mean then at that point? Well, growth is a lot of times what we call transformational learning. You have incremental learning where you just add knowledge to and you reinforce the knowledge that you already have, right? Here's a belief that I have. I'm going to only look for things that reinforce my beliefs. Well, that's fine. That's additive. But what about transformational learning? Transformational learning is when we open ourselves up and we have what we call a spirit of appreciative inquiry, where we have a non-judgmental lens that says, I'm going to be open to what it is that I'm looking or observing right now. And I'm going to ask questions, both either of myself or of the individuals that I'm interacting with, that allows for that person to share in a way that you can even say is that's vulnerable, right? They're able to share in a way that they know they're not being judged, they're not being threatened, that I'm appreciating what it is that they have to say, and I really want to hear it. And then it's up to me to be able to bounce that off against my value system. You say, okay, I get it. I respect where you're coming from. You maybe have enlightened me in a way that I haven't been enlightened before. I appreciate that. And now I'm just going to continue on. I grew today. I grew a bit today. I had a shift in my understanding. Now, might that shift my belief or my value structure? It may or may not. A shift in a value structure is a pretty big shift. And so there's other data points typically, or a big event that will, cause that to happen. I had my son, when he and I were in Rome years ago, when he was still in college, that's when he came out to me and let me know that he was gay. And it was a transformational moment, obviously, for me, and it took time after that, to work through. He had, the years leading up to it, and we talk about that. And so, so it allows me to see the world differently than how I saw it growing up as well. And you just, there's so much information and there's so many things to experience in the world. We can't experience them all. But that's kind of my personality style. I love experiencing. People say that I use that word a lot. It's about the experience. I just want to get out there and experience what's going on. And so when we open ourselves up to that through a lens of appreciative inquiry, non-judgmental, with honest curiosity, to appreciate differences, and really learn what that is. And it's still up to us then to make the decision on whether or not we're going to go through a shift or not. But that's how we grow. And so I think coming with that spirit of appreciative inquiry makes a huge difference. And then just leaving ourselves open and vulnerable in a safe way to the possibilities that may occur.
Well, Robert, this has been amazing. I enjoy the book. I particularly enjoy the beginning when you are navigating that sailing boat and we don't know whether you're going to survive or not. So, and of course, how the lessons that you take from life and apply it to your business and organization. So the last question, Robert, is, of course, can you tell us one more time the name of the book and where people can find it and where they can follow you in social media or your website or wherever is it that you want to send them?
Yeah, thank you, Alan. The name of the book is Grab the Helm. So if you go out to Amazon and just type in Grab the Helm, it will come up. You can order it right now. The book, the official publish date is on the 17th of December. So So it should be, available. It's also available in ebook form. And we also have the audiobook that's going to be coming out as well, which is great. And so if you type in grabthehelm.com, it'll bring you to the website. We're going to have an interactive website that's going to go along with the book. So as you journey through the Helm within the book, there'll be a website that provides you additional resources and be able to go that. So the Grab the Helm website is probably the best to go. Leading from the Helm is the name of the model. And if you type that into Google, that'll go right to our organizational website. So if you're looking at wanting to use the 8 factors of engagement as a way to drive an employee-led culture of engagement within your organization of any size or your team, we're able to help with that. And if you'd like to have a program run for your team, group, and we bring in wonderful personality styles and preferences so we can appreciate the differences in others. I'm overseas right now running those types of programs. So so grab the Helm, leading from the Helm, and then SicoraConsulting.com. I can be, we've got a Twitter account, we've got a Facebook account, we've got a LinkedIn account. We're going to expand into Instagram here pretty soon. YouTube channel with videos is available as well. So Sicora Consulting, obviously Sicora is spelled S as in Sam, I-C-O-R-A. Any of those things will get them to the resources that they need.
Well, all that will be in the show notes. Robert, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Alan. Appreciate it.